Rachel Tessman from StampYourArtOut.com, and today I'd like to share with you some outside-the-box ideas that I created with the June 2021 Paper Pumpkin Kit from Stampin' Up, titled Expressions in Color. These kits are delivered to my mailbox each month and contain everything that I need to make fun, creative paper crafting cards and projects. This month's kit contains supplies for making 9 beautiful cards, 3 each of 3 different designs. Each kit includes a publication like this one with directions, full color illustrations, details about the kit, and a link to access a how-to video so you can assemble the cards or projects as intended. The kits also include inks and stamps that can be used again and again even after the consumables are used up. This June kit included 2 mini ink pads in the colors Evening Evergreen and Bumblebee, and this exclusive stamp set. My first kit included a clear block for mounting and using all of my future stamps. That block and my scissors are the only extra items that I really need for completing my kits as is. Paper pumpkin kits are just $22 plus tax per month in the US. Shipping is included. You control which months you get your kits, and there's no commitment or obligation. Because these kits are produced through Stampin' Up, the colors, images, and supplies always coordinate with many other Stampin' Up products. I'll be using some of these as I share my alternate projects. You can find the items I used listed below and linked to my online store. You can also look below for links to learning more about paper pumpkin kits, starting your subscription through me so I can spoil you with exclusive ideas, gifts, and prizes, joining my Paper Pumpkin fan club on Facebook where you can see even more alternate project ideas shared daily, and if you're watching my video on YouTube, a link to my website where I've shared photos of the projects I'm going to share with you today. You'll notice in this video that I substitute the mini ink pads and that Paper Pumpkin clear block from my first kit for the larger versions of the ink pads and some ergonomic blocks. You won't need these, of course, but they are available products from Stampin' Up, and they're a bit easier for me to use while I demonstrate in my video. Your kit also comes with adhesives, but you'll see me using additional ones such as my seal adhesive for ease in demonstrating. I'm excited to create, so let's get started. Have you heard of one-sheet wonders? Basically, a one-sheet wonder is taking a designer paper and cutting it into different sections and then applying those sections to make multiple cards or projects. And so we're going to take this card base here and we're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to cut each of those halves into tinier bits and pieces. So I've already kind of mapped out what I want to do with this half. So we're just going to set this aside here and I'm going to show you. So for this piece here, it is 2 inches wide. So we're going to cut right along here so that we have the pink and the purple section. Let's flip it around this way so we can use the measurements on this side of the trimmer. And now we have that piece right there. Okay, let's go ahead and cut a little square out as well. Now this square is 2 by 2, but we actually have a 2 1/4 inch width here, and that's totally okay, but we want to make sure that the other section is going 2 inches. So there will be a few little wasted spots. You could save those for a different time if you'd like. And then these pieces each measure 3 1/4 inches long, but we actually have 3 1/2 inches here. And you'll notice that I have over here, I have the 2 strips on the side and then the other strip sectioned into 4 pieces. So when we cut this, I just wanted to be able to use both the pink and purple area and the purple area, and then down here I wanted both colors. So that's the reason for cutting that way. And each of these, I think I already mentioned this, I'm not sure, it's 3/4 inches wide. So we'll just go ahead and cut this strip and this strip. And when I cut them down, I have 3 strips that are 3/4 inches wide. So these 2 will go with that spot, and I'll have to trim them down just a little bit. And then this one I'm going to cut in half and then in half again. So we have a 3 1/2 inch piece here. So to cut that in half, we're going to have a 1 3/4 inch piece. And then when I cut that in half, I'm actually going to have 7/8 of an inch. So if I just go ahead and I cut 7/8 of an inch for each of these pieces, I will have 4 equal pieces. So did you like how I made myself a little cheat chart kind of thing here? I do that. I take scrap cardstock and cut it to size, and then that way I don't have to cut up my kit and make a mistake on it. So, and the reason why there's squiggles on this one is because this is the colored half and this is the non-colored half. This is the Fresh Freesia solid color half. So now we're going to cut these pieces here. These are 2 inches, so we're just going to cut a 2-inch strip here. And then we'll cut that in half, and half of 5.5 inches is 2 3/4 inches. So this will go in this direction, and those are these 2 pieces here. And then we've got a 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 inch piece. We've already got 2 1/4 inches this way, so we're going to cut it this way at 2 1/4. And then each of these pieces will be cut just like our other one. So 2 1/4 inches divided by 3 will give us strips that are each 3/4 inches wide. And then you can see I've got some messy writing on here. Basically, these 2 pieces are going to be flipped over to the white side. Now we need to have some extra cardstock brought in because we're going to take this card base and we're going to make 4 cards from it using some black and white cardstock being brought in. Now the black cardstock I've already cut in half and folded each piece in the same direction that you see most of the paper pumpkin cards. Okay, so they're 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4 inches and folded in half. So I've got 2 card bases for that. And then I've done one of my basic white. Did I say whisper white? Hope I didn't. That's an older color. One of my basic white pieces, and I cut it in half the opposite direction. So I cut it in half at the 4 1/4 inch mark, and then I scored it at 5.5 inches. So this is 11 inches by 4 1/4, scored at 5.5 inches. These kind of card bases you don't often see in paper pumpkin kits, but you can get, they're from the same size sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. And it's basically because they have to be folded in half to be put in the kit. And I know that paper pumpkin cards tend to be open flat for us, which is great because what if we don't want to use that score mark, right? So we have 4 card bases, and then we're going to need one other sheet of basic white because we're going to cut that to have some panels. Like we need a white panel on the inside of one of our cards so that you can write on it, and we'll be using those as like extra layers and panels. We're going to be bringing in the color Blackberry Bliss. I feel that that goes pretty well with the Fresh Freesia color and this combined Fresh Freesia and Polished Pink alcohol wash look. We're also going to bring in a couple heart punches. And you can freehand hearts by folding cardstock in half and then cutting out kind of an ear or a long C or however you want to describe it to get that look. And you wouldn't have to have a scallop layer. But if you can invest in these 2 punches, you're going to love one of the cards that we're going to do with it. We're going to need Post-it note or a sticky note paper also for punching because the pieces are pretty small that we're going to punch from. Now if you look at this, it might be a really tight fit to do that, but there's a little hint for punching hearts when you have a corner of a cardstock. You can go like this, and it tends to, you can get like more hearts punched from paper when it's kind of tipped that way. We could have just a little extra extension here and we could fit another heart in there when we couldn't fit them side by side. So just know that, you know, using the corner of your cardstock is really going to help you out when punching hearts. So let's do the same thing with this one. And now we have our layered heart. We're going to pop this up on dimensional so it kind of stands away from the border, so it stands out a little bit more like that. So now let's group all of our pieces. We will have these as scrap along with the pieces that we didn't use here. These strips are all going to go together, so the 5 strips small rectangular pieces, the little, if you want to call them squares, they're not really squares, but those are going to go together. The hearts are going to go together, and then these pieces are going to go together. So we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4 cards that we're going to create. With our white card base, we're going to have that go with the hearts. We've got a black card base that's going to go with these pieces here. With this one, we're going to have the strips. And with this one, we're going to have the tiny squarish rectangles. From our extra piece of basic white cardstock, we are going to have 4 sections that are almost a quarter of the sheet. They each measure 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches. 2 of them are going to become top layers for our white cards, and one is going to be an inside layer for one of our black cards. And then we've got 4 other little pieces that we're going to cut from that remaining quarter section of the cardstock, and we'll talk about those measurements soon. So let's just take one of these for now. This is going to get mounted onto the front of this piece here. Notice, because it's a white card base, you're going to be able to easily write on the inside of the card. White cardstock and black cardstock, I think, are staples if you're going to be doing alternate projects with paper pumpkin kits. So I think for this heart, little heart thing here, the Sending Hugs is a wonderfully appropriate little verse. So we're going to add that to our card. This is probably the simplest of all of our cards. And before we put these 2 pieces together up on dimensionals, it's good to keep everything flat. We're going to bring in our ink. This is our Blackberry Bliss ink, like I mentioned before. And we're going to ink up our Sending Hugs. Now, when you kind of figure out where the pieces are going to go, you're just going to use this as a guide. We're not going to stick it down. We're just going to guide ourselves to where we want to stamp our sentiment. So then that brings us to the question, where do we want to stamp it? Well, we could have it like this, we could have it like this, we could have it off to a side, you know, you could have it off center like this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it down in this corner. I don't know, for some reason I just want it right and in the bottom corner. So we're going to stamp Sending Hugs here. Then we're going to take our dimensionals and put 3 on the back side of our heart. We'll mount that onto this piece here, our layer. And that shadow helps to create a little bit more depth and darkness here behind it, so that it really stands out from the Fresh Freesia solid color. And then this can be added with just some seal or the glue dots that come in your kit. So sweet. This could be for a get well card, just a thinking of you if someone's going through a hard time, or, you know, just to send some love to somebody. Then let's go ahead and lift this up on dimensionals too, to give that some shadow and some depth. All you need is to place 1 in each corner, and that should do it. That should give the illusion that the whole thing is up on dimensionals. Plus it helps for mailing. Oh, I brought my bone folder in so I could crease this edge a little bit crisper so it stays flat. And then this can go just like that. Now if you wanted to add some other images around it, you could, but I really like the clean look of this. I'm going to add some of those here they are, these guys here, to the finished card, but I haven't decided where I'm going to put them yet. So we're going to set this aside as an almost finished card. So for our next card, which is the other basic white card, we're going to use these strips. And we have 2 that are on the white side. Oops, where is it? There it is. 2 that are on the white side, and 1 that's on the Fresh Freesia side, and then 2 of the colored ones like this. So things look great when they are in odd numbers. So we're going to work with the odd number here of 5, and we're just going to try to space things out. So if you're looking at this, you can say to yourself, oh, well, there's a middle piece. So the middle piece actually can be added straight in the middle of the card first, and then we can work our way out from there. But I want to make sure that I have it in the correct order. I think I was going to do a colored, like a alcohol wash piece on the top. I think I'm going to put this one on the top, and then I was going to have a white piece, and then I was going to have fresh freesia, and then I was going to have my pink piece, and then I was going to stamp this one. So I'm going to give it a little bit more of this darker color like that. So I've got my ink and my stamps ready to go. I'm bringing in a scrap piece of grid paper. I've obviously been stamping strawberries. And we're going to start with this piece here and ink up the floral image that comes in our kit. I'm just going to stamp it off to the left. And then on this piece, I'm going to stamp the word congratulations. Stamping that off a little bit to the left too. And then I'll bring in a couple of these little sprig images. And then on the bottom one, I'm going to use the alcohol ink splotch image, and we're just going to stamp this white piece. Like so. That way we have a darker base piece, which I think balances all of this out pretty well. Now we can mount all of those images, or those layers, and we're going to do that with our dimensionals to make them pop up. So you can eyeball it, or you can use grid paper and you can figure out where the middle is. And I wasn't completely in the middle, but that's okay. We'll go with this. It's better to have a little bit larger border on the bottom than it is on the top anyway. So we're going to do the same trick where we put a dimensional in each corner of this layer here, and it will give the illusion that the whole layer is up. Make sure our card opens the right way. So now we've got lots of shadow, creating some darkness and emphasis on our pieces. We will add some of these, of course, but not quite yet. Let's move on to the third card. So our third card is going to use these fun little squares, and we're going to cut some extra strips. This piece is going to go on the inside. Remember, this was a 4" by 5¼ inch piece. That's going to go on the inside layer. And we want these to kind of stand out. So we need to bring in our trimmer, and we're going to cut some more of the basic white cardstock, which I've already done. These pieces are the same width, so they're 3/4 inch, and they're just kind of varying in size. This one I made 2¼ inches, and this one I made 2 3/4 inches. And we're going to use the thanks and the for everything images. What I like to do is mount my stamps on my blocks kind of diagonally, so that I'm not relying on the edges of my blocks to help me line up things. That might be something that you might want to do. It kind of helps trick my eyes, I guess. So we're going to stamp the word thanks in the middle of the 3/4 inch by 2 3/4 inch white strip. And then we'll do the for everything on the smaller one. And then I've kind of laid out where I want all my pieces to go. So I want these to kind of go like this, with a couple squares this way and a couple, I'm calling them squares. They are technically rectangles, but we're going to put these two here, and we're going to put these two here. And I just made it so that I had a pinkish and a purplish one together with each other on each side. And I've kind of eyeballed it, so I do have like a shorter space here than I do here, but that in my mind's eye is totally fine. We'll add some embellishment sequins to that. Let's work on this last one. So we have a couple pieces of the fresh freesia. Those are going to be main layers that get words on them. And then we've got our decorative layer, which is going to go here. So we can already just add that directly with our seal adhesive. And then we're going to bring in a couple pieces of basic white, which are just slightly bigger than our fresh freesia pieces. So if you recall, our fresh freesia pieces were 2 inches by 2 3/4. So this is 2 1/4 by 3 inches. One will go on the inside of the card for our sentiments or whatever we want to say, or show on the inside, or just for the writing. And then this one will go here. So on the inside of this card, I've added the one flower, and I'm going to put a sequin on top and in the middle. There's no layers, so it's not up on dimensionals or anything, and it is centered. On the front, this isn't centered, but it has the illusion of being centered because it's the same distance between here and here as it is from here to here. So because of the illusion, I just kept this centered. So we're going to now take and place our remaining fresh freesia piece on top, which I've already added sequins to the flowers on. Oh, I was going to do that in dimensionals. Okay, we're going to add dimensionals to that. And since we did a strip of adhesive, we'll just do the same thing because that will cover up the seal adhesive that we have added already, instead of trying to rub all that off, right? And this will create that shadow again, which gives a little darkness underneath in the corners and really gives that card some pop. So, oh yes, did you know that? You can use the edges of your dimensionals. So there's one finished card. This one I've also finished. I added some sequins on the top like that. So that is the final look for that card. And then we have 2 others. For this one, I've added sequins, but do you see what I did with the one here? I've tucked it underneath the heart to give it the illusion that it's a half of a sequin. And then on this one, I want to do something similar with a half sequin look. So I've added one in the center of this flower and right here, but I have cut one of the sequins in half here on the sheet. And that way I can add a half sequin up here and a half sequin down here. So isn't that fun? It still has the look of a half sequin, only it's not, instead of being tucked, it's actually right on the card. So those are my one sheet wonder from a card base in the kit to make 4 cards. So there's a popular card fold style that's trending right now, at least in the world of Stampin' Up. A lot of people are doing this fold called bookbinding, and it's very, very simple. Basically, you're taking your card that's folded in half already, and you're just putting an extra score line close to the middle score line so that you can have the look of a bookbinding. It's so easy. So we're going to take that concept and we're going to apply that to our card kit. Before you is a sampling of papers that come in the Expressions in Ink Designer Series paper pack. And this is the pack of paper that coordinates with this paper pumpkin kit as shown on the flyer. So I'm going to show you quickly a bookbinding basic card. I haven't decorated it yet, and what I did to make it. Again, it was just a half a sheet of cardstock folded in half with an extra crease line. I used basic white cardstock, and then I used the designer paper to decorate the top. So without buying the designer paper, what can we do to make that look? So I've got my 2 colors of ink from the kit, and I've got my stamp that looks like a blob. This stamp is actually supposed to give you the alcohol ink look when stamped. So we're going to go ahead and press that down onto our paper, and then we'll lift it up, we'll move it, and we'll stamp it again. We'll just rotate our paper or our stamp just to kind of move that image in a different direction. Let's clean this off just to show you. what it would look like if we stamped it with the green next. And you can continually add the colors and the blobs going around your paper to get a look like the alcohol ink, like you've got it sprayed out all on there. Once you've done your stamps where you want them, then you can bring in a glue called the multi-purpose liquid glue, Tombow Mono Glue. And then you're going to do this gold, well, we're going to add some gold to it. So we're going to draw a really thin line of glue, and then we're going to get it kind of thick in some areas and thin again. And it's going to kind of curve around the images like so. Do you see how I did that? We're going to set this aside to dry, and we're going to add something called gold leafing or gilded leafing. But let's show another stamp set here really quick. The artistically inked stamp set coordinates with the suite, or I'm sorry, with the kit. This is a suite in the catalog that includes that paper. The artistically inked stamp set has a blob as well. So we're going to use this image and the image from the kit, and we're going to pair them together to make an alcohol ink look that's more natural looking. So let's clean off this stamp. So now I have another piece of basic white, and we're just going to start in the middle here. The nice thing is that you can overlap these images. I love having the two different images because they kind of fit together more naturally, as opposed to having more of a one image kind of look, if that makes sense. This one looks like it's one shape stamped multiple times. This one looks more natural to me, but you don't have to invest in that extra stamp set. You can still get that same sort of look. What I did is I added a little bit more glue in here, and I'm going to allow that to dry. The nice thing about the multi-purpose liquid glue is that when it dries tacky, so that it's still kind of a sticky feel. And so we're going to set that aside, and I'm going to show you what I did with this one. So you can see there's gold in there. We added the gilded gold leafing, and I'm going to demonstrate how to do that once this piece is dry. But let's just set that off to the side for now, and let's work with our card base. So I'm going to grab the Bumblebee yellow card base, and we're going to do the same thing that we did with this card. So now we have our alcohol wash look with our gold accenting. And grab our trimmer, and we're going to place an extra score line in here. So our score line is at 4 1/4 inches like it should be. We're going to move this over to the 5-inch mark. We're going to add an extra score line in there. This piece here is 4 inches wide by 5 1/2. So we're going to cut a piece from here that is just that. And we're going to snip off a 1/2 inch on one side. And with our bone folder, we're just going to give this a little bit of a rub. That's burnishing it, making sure it's nice and stuck down. And then we want to make sure that when we apply this piece that it kind of flows, so you'll want to look at your design. This will stick right on here like this. And don't put it too close to that score line because you want this to be able to open up. And if you have it right up to the score line, it's going to pucker a little bit. So what we can do is we can trim off any excess that we need to trim. Just with our paper snips or our trimmer. In fact, here, we'll do it with our trimmer. So you can see there's a difference in the white there. There's just a little bit extra there. So we're going to bring it into the trimmer like so. And remove that. So there's that. Now let's go ahead and add a sentiment on the front. And then we have these wonderful little leaf pieces in our kit. We have the purple one and the pink one and the green one. And I'll tell you, when this is against here, it gets lost, right? Even if we were to use a different color, it gets lost. It's just too much, right? So what I'm going to recommend is you snip these. In fact, I'm going to recommend that you do that with all of them before you even start assembling any cards, because I think there's too many leaves on one card. So we're going to snip them down into little pieces like this, and we're going to add glue to the back side and let it dry tacky, and we're going to add gold leafing to those too, so that we have gold leaves, because I think those are going to show up a lot better. How did I get that glue dot on my finger? So you could choose to make the gold leaves like I'm going to show you, or you can also get the Expressions in Ink Ephemera pack, which has laser cut gold leaves that you can add to your cards. It also includes similar embellishments to the one that we have in the kit. So you can see they're a little bit smaller, a little bit clearer, but there's still that iridescent look. So if you're looking for another item to add to your kit to make your cards just amazing, more amazing, right? Then you can invest in that pack. But let's demonstrate how to do this. This is a silicone craft sheet, they call it, and I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of glue on here. Again, the multi-purpose liquid glue. And I've got a piece of a sponge. Stampin' Up! No longer sells these sponges, but I know you can find those out there in craft stores or wherever, on Amazon. And we're going to get a little bit of glue on the back side, and we're just going to sponge that up. Get that all full of glue and let it just sit there, okay? We want it to be tacky and dense with glue. Okay, I've allowed my glue to dry. I'm going to bring in this stuff called Gilded leafing, and it's very lightweight. You can barely even feel it. And we're just going to take a few of these little layers in here and lay them down on top of our glued areas. Some people keep this gilded leafing in like a shoebox size plastic container. You want to make sure that you don't sneeze when you have it with you, because all of these things can easily blow into the wind. Another reason why sponges are great is for basically getting that glue burnished into those areas. So you just start rubbing. See how that's working there? I'm rubbing it into and see, I can even pick it up with the sponge and move it into areas where I still feel tackiness. And you just rub it, and it embeds it into the tacky glue. It's so awesome. So that's how you get that look that I got on my finished paper that I've shared with you on the front of the card. Let's take our leaf, got that leaf here, and add a little bit of that gilded leafing to that. Looks like I need another sheet of it. It's so easy to use, everyone, so I really recommend giving it a try with just tacky glue, like this multi-purpose stuff. And if this isn't enough gold on here, you can certainly, after it's dried and it's tacky, you can add more glue and just really get it doused with glue. So I ended up adding another layer of glue just to make them a little bit denser in gold. And now I'm going to flip over my label piece, and we're going to add some seal to the back side. Just in a couple spots here. And bring our branches out from this, like that. Then we'll add dimensionals on the back side, covering up the adhesive that we've already put down. And those leaves really pop. They don't hide on us because they're gold. So I'm going to add one more little bit on here. I'm just taking one of the glue dots from the kit, placing it onto the bottom right portion of my label piece, and I've tied some of that green twine. I'm just going to add that to the front here, just for a little bit more texture to the card. And there we have the finished card. Isn't that fun? I just love it. I have one more project to share in this video, but I have more projects in my head ready to create with this kit, and you'll be seeing those in future blog posts, so make sure that you stay tuned to my blog. Okay, so this next and last project is a mini album, and it's perfect for like remembering a wedding, a special celebration like an anniversary. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a mini album out of the envelopes. We're going to use 4 of the envelopes, 2 of the larger ones and 2 of the smaller ones. You see how I put them together? So I have one inserted into the other, and then we're going to add some adhesive right here. You could also, lick it if you want to, but we're just going to add adhesive with our seal. I'm going to fold that over and seal it shut. So there is the book, outside book part of our mini album. And then we've got our smaller envelopes, and I've just folded the flaps back. You can remove them if you wish. I'm going to leave them as is and just kind of tape them down there. And then I'm going to add them onto this portion of each side. But before I add them, I'm going to use ribbon, and I'm going to attach some vellum. So we have a beautiful vellum piece that is in our kit. We're going to cut this in half so that we have half for one side of our album and half for the other side. And it doesn't matter where you cut it in half, by the way. Okay, after we've done that, we're going to attach it with a little bit of seal, and then we're going to cover it up with some ribbon. And you can definitely use the twine that comes in the kit, but you're going to have to wrap it a zillion times in order to get the seal adhesive covered, or I don't know. I just recommend a wider ribbon, and I love our open weave ribbon. This one we have in the Handsome Hunter color, which coordinates with the color of the kit. So let's do this. Let's look at our image, and there is a right side and a wrong side. We're going to flip it over to the back, and we're going to run our seal adhesive between the two, right down the middle. And now we have a thin piece on each side. These won't get added right to the edge, but they're going to be close to the edge. So about 1/4 inch away. I have 2 paper snips. One of them is assigned to cutting ribbon. That's why it has a ribbon on it, and it stays nice and sharp. The other one is for paper. And I recommend tying a knot on the inside rather than a bow. A bow is going to give you too much bulk, and we want our album to be able to be flat, especially once we add photos in there. We don't want to have too much bulk. When you tie your knot, don't tie it too tight because you want it to also be able to be pressed down. So we've got our knots on each piece. This one here, we just need to seal. Put some adhesive there and seal that back. And then we can adjust our ribbons because we haven't used any kind of glue on them, so they can be pulled in one direction or the other. So let's bring in our base of our album and kind of position where we think they should go. I'm actually thinking this one should go on this side, like that. All right, so now that we've got them centered, we can put adhesive on the back side, and I think it'd be best if you avoid the ribbon area so that you can make sure that you can still adjust the ribbon, and then we can put a glue dot underneath the knot portion of that ribbon. Okay, and did you see what I did there? I was worried that my adhesive was over too far, and thankfully it wasn't. So you want to watch that too. You want to make sure that you don't put adhesive too close to this edge, or it's going to be exposed underneath in this section here. I also think that instead of doing what I did just now with the seal, you could put some glue dots from the kit right underneath those corners so that they stay down. In fact, I'll probably reinforce these two corners with a couple glue dots. Take Your Pick tool is so much easier to use than the scissors with those little tiny glue dots. Okay, so we have that done. Closes like this. Pictures can insert here. You can write, dates or little notes if you want to, or even insert notes into the pockets. It's going to be a real delicate looking kit. Now we want to put vellum on the front too. So we're going to add this piece here, and we're going to add this piece here, and we're going to add a few little sprigs of color. So let's go ahead and stamp this. And then we're cutting our beautiful leaf pieces down so that we have smaller sections, usable sections. I've already cut this one down to 3. And this is going to be placed here on the front of our album. We're going to place it down directly, but before we do that, I want to be able to tuck some of these leaves underneath. I'm going to go back for just a minute here. I thought it would also be great if we could add a little bit of purple to the inside too. So I'm going to cut these down a bit, I think, and add them to the inside. So I think I've spread them out enough, cut them down into little tiny pieces. I even put an extra strip of seal adhesive back here to hold them all. And this is what I have on the front. So after you've built up your little title strip, you're going to stick that down onto your vellum. And then on the back side, you're going to add even more adhesive. I want to make sure that's straight first. Hang on, using my grid paper. Yep, that looks straight. So we're going to add more seal to the back side here. There we go. And you can put adhesive dots behind a couple of the leaves too. That way, that adhesive, which is further out, is going to be hidden, but it will help to hold this vellum layer down even more. So just a few on the outside sections there. And now we'll flip this over and we'll add that to the front of our mini album. So this would be a great gift to give somebody. We're going to add a little bit of this sparkle too. This would be a great gift to give somebody after they've gotten married, or even as a wedding gift, so that they have a place where they can put a few of their photos to remember their wedding by. And how pretty is that? Now that you've watched my video, I hope you can see that there is so much more to these kits than meets the eye. With just a few extra supplies and some imagination, you can go beyond and make so much more with these super affordable kits. I hope you gained some inspiration from what I've shared. Thank you for watching. It builds creativity to think outside the box. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can catch more paper pumpkin videos that I've shared using past kits and more that I'll share with future kits. Also, be sure to visit my website at stampyourartout.com so you can view close-up photos of these projects, see photos of other paper pumpkin kit ideas in future and past posts, and see many other great ideas that I share using Stampin' Up! Products. If you want to get spoiled with extra goodies like gifts, prizes, and extra exclusive paper pumpkin project ideas, remember to get your subscription started with me as your demonstrator using the link below. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Now I'd like you all to go and stamp your art out. Bye-bye.